as Donald Trump both praises and attacks the protesters on Twitter, calling them professionals and passionate.
We hate Trump! We hate Trump!
And he makes peace with President Obama at the White House.
Well, I just had the opportunity to have an excellent conversation with President-elect Trump.
His wife Melania sits down with the First Lady, the transition now underway, and we get our first private look at Hillary Clinton after her loss.
State of emergency. More than 30 wildfires burned through the southeast, forcing evacuations, torching thousands of acres. Firefighters battling the blaze from the ground and the air. Now the new warning about that dangerous smoke.
Race against time. The desperate search for that mother of two who vanished while jogging. Her husband has taken a lie detector test. He speaks out in our new interview.
It is very difficult for me and for my family.
As police suspend their ground search and hunt for any possible clues.
And the Warriors woman lighting up the internet. In her sweater, the real reason this retired teacher is breaking out these moves. Her message for America right now.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And good morning, America. We have a lot of news to get to this Friday morning, and we begin by honoring America's veterans. Thank you for your service and sacrifice on this Veterans Day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we just show you this woman, the Warriors woman, breaking it down at the Warriors game. And she's a retired teacher who's still teaching us a lesson. She says she's doing this as a dare from her husband to bring some joy after the divide over the election. You can't help but smile.
That is joy.
No, and I think a lot of us could use some joy because certainly we saw overnight evidence of that incredible divide, more protests breaking out over Donald Trump's election. Many of them were peaceful, but some of them, again, turned violent.
And President-elect Trump addressed them on Twitter. First, he sent out this tweet saying, professional protesters incited by the media are being very unfair. Then this morning, just a few minutes ago, he sent this, praising the small group of, quote, protesters for having passion for our country. We want to start with ABC's Pierre Thomas. He's outside Trump Tower this morning with the latest on those protests and Trump's new security measures. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, George. The heavy police presence behind me is meant to send a blunt message that Mr. Trump now has security equal to the President of the United States. Violence erupting overnight after anti-Trump protesters took to the streets.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. You are under arrest.
Portland authorities declaring the scene a riot. The crowd throwing projectiles at police and vandalizing vehicles and buildings. Demonstrators blocked this bridge. A driver throwing what appeared to be laundry detergent on the crowd. In other locations, thousands of protesters marched through city streets in mostly peaceful gatherings.
We reject the president-elect.
Hundreds also protesting near Trump's Manhattan residence, the Trump Tower, raising questions about how to best protect the president-elect in the nation's busiest city.
How do you build a secure bubble around him when he's several feet in the air with other potential buildings where a sniper or somebody else could potentially place themselves?
Concrete barriers, sanitation trucks, and salt spreaders filled with sand serving as barricades along Fifth Avenue, snarling traffic around the building. Trump Tower now receiving 24-hour Secret Service coverage, top to bottom, whether he's there or not, with agents throughout the building, just like at the White House. A no-fly zone 2 miles in radius restricting airplanes and helicopter traffic. His motorcade fully armored with security bells and whistles that remain top secret. Trump's adult children are also offered the same security. Unclear whether they will take it. Amy?
All right, Pierre, thank you for that. And now to the big meeting that happened in the Oval Office. President-elect Donald Trump sitting down, and you see there shaking hands with President Obama for the first time. And ABC's John Carl was there and joins us now with all the latest from Washington, D.C. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Amy. With Donald Trump's first visit to Washington and to the Oval Office as President-elect of the United States, the transition from an Obama administration to a Trump administration is now well underway.
Ready? Okay. Well, I just had the opportunity to have an excellent conversation with President-elect Trump.
The moment that will go down in history, the first meeting between President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump.
I have been very encouraged by I think, interest in President-elect Trump's wanting to work with my team around many of the issues that this great country faces. I want to emphasize to you, Mr. President-elect, that we now are going to want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds.
I very much look forward to dealing with the president in the future, including counsel. Mr. President, it was a great honor being with you, and I look forward to being with you many, many more times in the future. Thank you, sir.
The two met one-on-one in the Oval Office for 90 minutes. And when the cameras were let in, President Obama shared this tip with his successor.
Here's a good rule. Don't answer the questions when they just start. It's always the last one.
We tried anyway and got an answer from Donald Trump.
So Mr. Trump will seek his counsel?
Come on, guys.
Will seek his counsel?
Let's go.
Very, very good man.
Thank you,
Very
guys.
good man.
Appreciate it.
And the current First Lady met with the future First Lady, sharing tea in the White House residence. Melania Trump already changing her Instagram account to read First Lady. Despite the remarkable gestures of graciousness on both sides, the bad blood remains.
He said on Monday, Donald Trump is temperamentally unfit to be commander-in-chief, uniquely unqualified. Does he still believe that?
Look, the president's views haven't changed. He stands by what he said on the campaign trail.
President-elect spent much of the day presenting a united front on Capitol Hill, meeting Speaker of the House Paul Ryan and checking out the location of his upcoming inauguration.
And we are now talking about how we're going to hit the ground running to make sure that we can get this country turned around and make America great again.
The challenge now for the soon-to-be president, turning campaign promises into action.
We're going to look very strongly at immigration. We're going to look at border. We're going to look very strongly at health care. And we're looking at jobs, big league jobs.
President Obama has authorized President-elect Trump to receive the full national security briefings, much more detailed than what he received as a presidential candidate. Beginning as soon as today, he will be eligible to receive the equivalent of the presidential daily brief that President Obama gets every morning.
And John, this was the first time Trump appeared in front of the media since the election. We saw you right there in the thick of it. What was it like being in that room?
Well, first of all, this meeting lasted a lot longer than expected. We were brought to outside the door of the Oval Office by the Rose Garden, had to wait for about an hour before we were finally allowed in. It struck me that there really wasn't the tension that I would have expected or the awkwardness. Donald Trump seemed rather subdued, seemed to be taken in by the seriousness about what is about to happen.
And John, also yesterday, the Trump team did not allow media to accompany him on the plane there to D.C. What do you anticipate in terms of access to a President Trump?
Well, Amy, that is absolutely without precedent. Every president and every president-elect since John F. Kennedy has had a media pool that has gone wherever they have gone. There were times here in Washington where the press pool had no idea where Donald Trump was. In fact, they thought he was staying here overnight, and he ended up flying back to New York, something they didn't realize until he was seen at the airport. Really without precedent. It's unclear if that will continue.
All right, Jonathan Karl, you'll be on top of it. We know. Thank you.
Okay, Amy, thank you. Let's talk now to the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Mr. Chairman, thank you for joining us this morning. First off, congratulations on your victory. President-elect Trump pulled you up on stage on Wednesday morning, gave you big credit for the victory across the board. So are you prepared now to serve in his administration, perhaps as White House Chief of Staff?
Well, I don't have any updates for you, George, on transition. I'm at the RNC, as you know, and I appreciate it. We were part of the biggest ground effort that's ever been seen, I think, at any national party effort. I'm very proud of what we've done at the Republican National Committee, but it ultimately starts with a great candidate, and the American people had a choice, and they went to Donald Trump, and we swept through the Midwest and had a great night, and all the kudos go to President-elect Trump.
You were close to both the President-elect Trump and the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Of course, they had some tough times during the campaign. Have they completely buried the hatchet? And does President-elect Trump want Paul Ryan to return as Speaker?
Well, I can answer the question. I mean, all those details, I'm sure, are in the affirmative, but I don't speak for the President-elect Trump. But as far as yesterday is concerned, they had a great day. I heard from both Speaker Ryan and President-elect Trump, and they both indicated back to me that they had a great day and mutual admiration. And look, the truth is, you saw with the president yesterday and President-elect Trump, these are likable people. And in private, even like a lot of people, even more likable. So you had a 10-minute meeting that went 90 minutes because both of these guys probably had a great time together. And I can tell you personally, President-elect Trump in private is the kind of guy that most people would want to have a beer with, although he doesn't drink. And I'm sure President Obama is the same way. They're likable people, and likable people tend to get elected, and that's what you have.
There was a lot of goodwill and conciliation in Washington yesterday. There's no question about that, but we're still seeing a lot of anger out in the streets of this country. You've got those protests in several cities overnight for the second straight night. I was struck by the front page of USA Today today talks about the rise in racist acts following this election. There's an awful lot of anger and fear still out there in the country. What's your recommendation to President-elect Trump for how to address that?
Well, I mean, just like 2 mornings ago, he talked about bringing America together. He took out all the, all sort of the victory rhetoric was out of the speech, talking about everyone coming together, race, religion, background, gender. That's what Donald Trump believes in. That's what I believe in. That's what our party believes in. I'm not sure why some of these things are going on. It was the Democrats that accused Donald Trump of not willing to accept the outcome of the election. Now, he won fairly overwhelmingly, although close, but electoral college-wise, pretty clear.
Right, but he lost the popular vote.
But I understood. But it's the other side now that doesn't want to accept the fact that they lost the election. So, look, I think everyone needs to just take a deep breath, take the weekend. Today's Veterans Day, count our blessings, and let's come back on Monday. And I can assure you what you saw yesterday from Donald Trump is exactly the man that I've gotten to know.
You're absolutely right about,
willing to bring people together.
You're absolutely right about the speech he gave on Wednesday morning and the tweet he sent out just moments ago, but he also sent out that other tweet overnight talking about professional protesters incited by the media. You say you don't know what's going on behind this either. Do you believe that these are professionals incited by the media?
I don't know, George. I mean, what I do know, though, and I think what President-elect Trump knows is that it's very clear that, at least in the emails that were released, that we had the DNC, the Hillary Clinton campaign, or someone in between going to Donald Trump rallies and inciting violence. And so that happened. And so there are such things as professional protesters. But I'm sure that the vast majority of people are just very disappointed with the outcome of the election. So I'll give them that, and I'll also say I understand the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. But this election's over now, and we have a president-elect who has done everything he can do over the last 48 hours to say, let's bring people together. He had a great meeting with the current president. They had a good time. I can tell you personally, I talked to President-elect Trump. He genuinely enjoyed that meeting. That was not show. He enjoyed the meeting with President Obama. He was very impressed with President Obama. I'm sure the feeling was mutual as far as like them getting along. And I think people need to just take a deep breath, take the day, count our blessings, and enjoy the weekend.
Mr. Chairman, again, congratulations. Thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, let's talk more now about Donald Trump's next steps and the international reaction to his election. So let's bring in ABC's Tom Llamas and Martha Raddatz, who is in Washington. And Tom, you obviously followed the Trump campaign from the very beginning. You will continue to follow his transition to the presidency. We heard Reince Priebus there not committing to whether or not he was being considered for chief of staff. But who are some of the top picks for President-elect Trump and his new administration?
Yeah, I thought that was incredibly telling just now with George. Let's put up some faces there on the screen. This is for Chief of Staff. First, Reince Priebus, the chairman of the RNC. He did not tell George no just now. And sources within the campaign told me he was incredibly helpful during the presidential debates, and he really built a bond with Donald Trump. Then Governor Chris Christie. He shocked the political world after New Hampshire when he came out and endorsed Trump in that surprise press conference. Yet he has Bridgegate hanging over him. He's still part of the transition team. Steve Bannon, I'll never forget that call I got right before GMA when Paul Manafort was out, telling me about a man named Steve Bannon, who I had never heard of. He was one of the top top dogs at Breitbart, but he connected on a personal level with Donald Trump. He's a big ideas guy, and he was there part of the winning team. And finally, Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, married to Ivanka, a person we don't see a lot in public, or speaks a lot in public, we should say, but he speaks a lot in privately to Trump. We'll have more on him in the next half hour.
And Martha, what about the picks for possible national security positions, the key national security positions in a Trump administration?
Well, we've got Jeff Sessions, Senator Corker, Mike Flynn, the general who has been with him all along. We're not positive about any of this, Newt Gingrich, and he will probably bring in some Republican establishment figures, perhaps in that national security team, George.
And Martha, on those big foreign policy promises, we know that President-elect Trump is starting to speak out, to speak to foreign leaders, including the leader of South Korea, reassuring her yesterday. But he's got these big promises on the board, like punishing China over their currency, renegotiating NAFTA, building that wall on the border, scrapping the Iran nuclear agreement. Where do you see this going right now? How realistic is it for him to be able to implement these things in these first days?
Well, first of all, George, the response around the world has been congratulatory and diplomatic, Muslim countries included. On the Iran nuclear deal, Iran says they will continue to abide by it, but tearing it up will be difficult if there's not an alternate plan. And this was not something the U.S. did alone. On the Muslim ban, he had later proposed it would be just countries where terrorism was a problem. And the wall, well, Mexico's president says that he's eager to work with President-elect Trump, but no way they will pay for a wall. But I think the world is waiting to see exactly what Mr. Trump's foreign policy positions will be.
Any word, Tom, on when we'll hear about his top posts?
You know, that's the big question right now. When will Donald Trump decide? The clock is ticking. We know that some of his top advisors have reached out to potential candidates. We heard a Reuters report that Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan, co-CEO, possibly as the Secretary of Treasury, but this is all speculation right now.
All right. Tom Yamas, Martha Raddatz, thank you. And Michael, you have some financial headlines as they relate to the election.
Yes, we've seen the worldwide reaction to Donald Trump's election. Now we're seeing some of Wall Street's reaction to his election. A big bounce in the stock market after the election. Rebecca Jarvis is at the New York Stock Exchange. And Rebecca, the Dow closed at a record high last night.
That's right, Michael. The Dow at a new all-time high since the beginning of this year. Stocks are now up 7.8%, and since the election, they're up 2.7%. For the typical 401k, that means the typical 401k has added about $2,000 since Election Day, with Wall Street eyeing lower taxes, less regulation, but today things are looking like they might turn out a little bit weaker, Michael, as Wall Street anticipates what Trump's policies on immigration as well as corporations are going forward, Michael.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. We'll keep our eye on that. And now let's get to those wildfires in the southeast. Ginger, they're in a state of emergency.
State of emergency for parts of Tennessee and other states as well. I'm going to detail all of that. But first, the image that is going overhead. So many folks in the southeast are seeing this. That is from North Carolina. Now more than 30 large wildfires burning. And many of them are in the southeastern United States. Look what it looks like from above. The smoke so bad. So many people are tweeting me and Facebook messaging me saying, we can't breathe. The air quality is just that bad. It doesn't look like it's going to get a lot better. There are already mandatory evacuations. All those fires burning, a front moving through. The wind are going to come through, and it's going to be a dry front. All right, let's get to the weekend getaways now, brought to you by Walmart.
Please bow your heads. And I'm just grateful that we can all be here in this moment.
I'm thankful for my family and that they care about me.
We're another year older. We've been through a lot of trauma.
No matter what color we are, no matter what uniform we got on, you guys are my family.
Nothing more important than family today. It's good to be together.
Let's enjoy.
Well, as we honor our men and women who served today, at least the weather is going to cooperate. It is going to be dry, but turning breezy, even downright windy, with the flag blowing stiff today. 62 by 3 o'clock during the afternoon, with temperatures pushing out of the upper 40s to around 50 degrees through the morning hours. Wind chills down in the low 30s by early tomorrow morning as a front moves through, and those temperatures will drop again by Sunday morning. A dry weekend from cold on Saturday, a little warmer on Sunday.
And coming up, more from inside President-elect Trump's inner circle. What role could the next president's son-in-law play in his new administration?
And the desperate search for that mother of two who vanished while jogging. Her husband taking a lie detector test.